we're going. And good evening. Here we are. Welcome to Gears of Trust. And we're looking at December the 20th is when this video is dropping. That means Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody. I don't do happy holidays. That's not what I'm about. I hope that's not what you're about. If you're not about Merry Christmas, you might want to turn off the podcast right now and find another podcast because this is definitely not the podcast for you. Welcome to Gears of Trust. My name is Maynard and Heather. I'm your host. Once again, this podcast is about mechanics and all the things that involve mechanics. It can be oil sands or other trades, maybe electricians. And in this case here, we're talking pipe fitters or the other half of the pipe fitter, what makes the pipe fitter work so well in the oil sands. Amazingly enough, it's my good friend Heather. And my even better friend Dave is not here, her husband. But yeah, that's brings us all to bear on this subject. So this week's episode, what we're going to be talking about is living on shifts or living on shift works and what's it mean back home. So we all hear the guys whine about the camps and whine about the food and whine about being away from home. So while we're out having fun, fixing all these great machines, building all these great pipes and doing fun things in the oil sands, making hockey bags money, what's happening back at home? I don't have a clue. And if you think that's not correct, check with my wife. She'll tell you I don't have a clue. But as an expert, I brought Heather in here. So Heather is a friend of the family, and she's going to give us a spin about what that side of the street's like. So Heather, I'm going to ask you to take it away, introduce yourself to everybody, and let them know what we're all about.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you as well. My name's Heather Roberts. I'm 39 years old. I have been with my husband, Dave, for 15 years. So definitely I've delved into the oil field life. We have an adult, we have a 19-year-old daughter who has her own career and stuff.
A 19-year-old daughter?
Yes.
Wow. What does she do? Sorry. We'll get to that. Keep going, Heather.
I work for the federal government as a finance clerk. Specifically for the military, and I have been with them for 14 years now.
Wow.
So, yeah. Something kind of weird about me is I really like octopus, like the actual animal. So I've gone as far as every time Dave and I go on holiday, I try and find an aquarium so I can see one, a real one. And I did get to in June. I got to see a giant Pacific octopus.
Really? Where at? Where's that at?
The Vancouver Aquarium.
Vancouver Aquarium, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever gone snorkeling and stumbled across an octopus?
Yes, but it was so shy it went and hid, and then it changed colors, so I couldn't see it anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
that was. Yeah, it's really they're so neat. They just. I don't know what it is. They're just.
You're not gonna like me because the closest I've come to octopus is calamari. So that's not even an octopus. That's squid. So that's
it is, and that's okay. That's something I don't eat, but not because of that. That one just doesn't interest me in the slightest bit.
I think salt water. I think food.
That's fair. Being a former East Coaster, I get it.
Yeah. There you go. Right?
Yeah.
So tell us more.
Sorry?
Tell us more.
I grew up with two military parents. So one that served a shorter time and one that served a longer career. So I did have some neat challenges with moving to several different places in the country, meeting new people, and it's a very close, tight community.
So that's kind of like living on shifts. So what do you mean on that? So you're a military kid?
Yep.
Or pusher brats, what we used to call them, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So how many places have you traveled as a military child, right?
4.
4 places? Where would that be?
So I was actually born in Cold Lake. The unique story with that is before it was actually called Cold Lake, the town was called Medley, and it no longer exists. So I was actually born in a military hospital. So I actually hold two birth certificates, a provincial and a federal.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
That's kind of weird. So
Honest to goodness, it's weird. It's a white birth cert or a white, white birth certificate, and it says like Government of Canada, born on federal property.
oh, really?
Yes,
Oh,
it's a neat one. I'll have to show you
okay.
sometime.
So so where did you go from there?
We went to Petawawa,
Okay.
and then so Petawawa was on the border of Quebec and Ontario,
Mhm.
and then we went to Shiloh, and
Manitoba.
then in Manitoba. And then my parents had split up at that point, and my mom's from Edmonton, so she wanted to come back here as her final, like with her job with the federal government. She was able to take a civilian posting, so she
Yeah.
came here home, and so we've been here since 2002.
So you've been in Edmonton since 2002, coming from Wainwright. So Petawawa,
Shiloh.
what?
Shiloh.
Oh, Charlotte, Manitoba. Sorry about that.
Yep.
So when you left Petawawa, how old were you?
5.
5. Oh, so you spent most of your time in Shiloh.
Yep. 12 years.
Oh, cool. There you go. That's
Mhm.
kind of neat. So of all the places you've been, what do you like best?
Um, well, the climate of Petawawa in the summer, it's very, very warm there, and I really like the warm weather. Um,
Uh,
Manitoba has so many lakes, so I got to spend a lot of time camping, doing all the outdoor sports. So that has a closer place in my heart. And
yeah.
then here, I actually took a while for me to adjust to Edmonton, it being so north. The daylight, like the amount of daylight you get in the summer and the lack of daylight in the winter, it's really different, and it's
Lack
very,
of
very
daylight.
dry.
Like we're talking December 20th right now. Tomorrow would be the 21st. That's like you get your 3 hours of sun. I don't know where the issue
If you're lucky, if you're lucky, yeah.
is.
On a
You're like
cloudy day, you get nothing.
sunny
Mhm.
days. You get the hope of a longer day, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Every day it's a minute longer, and you just savor that 1 minute.
I actually I love the summers. Like I love June 21st. Clinical
I
depression starts on June 22nd. Days get shorter.
Yeah, it's actually unique to be able to sit outside at 11:30 p.m. and know that it's not dark out.
Yeah. Just need
And then
that.
when you wake up, it's been daylight for hours already.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's Northern Alberta. That was not. Hmm. So
Alberta, yeah, Alberta's it's different. This is a different, like Alberta has so much difference. Like we have, like, the oil field sits in a unique place. We have deserts in this province. We have mountains. We've got tons. It's very beautiful.
the wildest place, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
I'm loving Alberta too.
Yeah,
Absolutely
absolutely.
cool. So this
Yeah.
episode here, fans that are tuned in there right now, we're going to be talking about living on shifts. So, like, we're looking to explore the emotional and practical challenges pertaining to living on shifts. Because you've got Dave. So where's Dave right now? I guess.
Dave is working in Fort McMurray. He's currently there. I think this is his no, tomorrow's his last day of his shift, so he should be coming home soon. Um, he is working 12-hour shifts. Um, so our conversations are pretty limited. It's either before work really early or we get a little bit of time after, but 12 hours is a long time for manual labor. Like, it takes a toll on the body.
Yeah, and then he's got to commute back and forth to site. So
Absolutely, which is, I
do you
believe it's
talk?
about
Do you talk when he's driving out there or what?
like from Edmonton to Fort McMurray.
No, like on a daily basis. On a daily basis.
Physical.
Do you speak to him on a daily basis on shift or what?
We text more, to be honest. We can always call each other at any point, but when he gets off work, his brain is still in work mode. And depending on where I'm at and what's going on, sometimes the timings just don't match up. But
Yeah.
we talk as often as we can. We're talking several times a week at least. and we're texting throughout the day. I talk to him on his work breaks. I talk to him before work. I talk to him after work. So there's no actual gap of time. There's no space.
So if there's anything you could change about his shift, what would you change? So what's he doing for rotation right now?
He's on
21?
4 on, 5 off, 5 on, 4 off.
Oh, so he's doing 5-5-4 for a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 5 days on, 5 days off, 4 days on, 5 days off.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did that for I think a year and a half when I first put in the oil sands, matching up with the elevated sand stuff like that. So what's the worst shift he's had?
The worst would probably be his shutdowns.
So what happens on a shutdown?
On his shutdown, he's working 6 and 1, so 1 day off a week. And 500 kilometers is a lot to drive for 1 day. So the longest we've been apart for shutdown is 79 days.
Well, you counted the rate of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So mostly what does that do, Heather? Like Dave's gone for 79 days. What do you do?
Well, because I have a full-time job, it is helpful that time does pass a little quicker. Weekends look a little different because I'm kind of solo, especially having an adult child now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of extra time. So it's me finding extra things to do. It's honestly like a hobby is a smart thing. And I'm still working on finding that right hobby to make that time pass. For now, I hang out with the dog, like the regular stuff that goes in the house. I see my friends. I try to plan certain things around Dave being home so that he's not missing out on things. In the summer we go camping or we're at the lake.
So is there a trade-off on the shutdown thing? So he does it 79 days straight. So how many days would he have off after a shutdown?
Maybe a week.
Maybe a week. He does it take 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or?
It depends on who he's working for and what that kind of scheduling looks like. So if they're saying, okay, we're going to give you a week to like reset, sometimes it's 2 weeks. We've had longer where they've done a shutdown in the fall and then leading up to Christmas, he's off for 2-3 weeks. So we've had, it just varies by the company. It depends on what the needs are, what the project is, and what the demands are for the workforce.
So how many years has Dave been doing this?
18.
18 years.
18 years.
So that tells me you did a little bit of parenting all by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Well, there's not really much to it. You know, situations happen, and I was just grateful when Dave came into our life. But I have a really good support system with my family.
You have family right there in Edmonton, eh?
I do, yeah. My mom's here, yeah.
Oh, that makes things a lot better, eh?
Yeah. My dad's closer, but he's not in Edmonton. He's 2 hours away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Excellent. So basically you're running the whole homestead.
Pretty much, yeah. All the things.
And Dave drops in to visit?
That's what he calls it. And so I become like a living calendar for everybody where I know everybody's schedules. I know who's going where and when, and I'm the one that everything gets run by just because I'm the constant. I'm always around.
So would you say that's positively affected things or negatively affected things over 18 years? That's a long time, 18 years to be doing that.
It is. It's pretty normal for him. Like he's a dual ticketed pipe fitter, so he has 2 pipe tickets, and it's almost like a second nature to him. Driving up there, it's normal. He can probably tell you which tree looks like what on the road, and where the stops are, where the dead zone is, because there's definitely a dead zone.
What you mean cells? Cell
Yeah.
phones, you mean, or what do you mean dead zone?
Cell phone. There's cell phone and radio. Satellite radio, I think, works the whole way, but I know radio cuts out and cell phones cut out. There's a gap where there's not a lot of
Yeah,
service.
I know exactly where it is, which pole it starts at.
And this is what I mean, is this is second nature for him as well. So he's
Yeah,
very familiar. That's just a normal drive for him. He doesn't think anything of it anymore.
yeah. No, I don't either. It's,
Yeah.
yeah. I used to do the commute thing in 7-7 when I was working at CNRL Horizon. And we own the restaurant in Edmonton, so I do 7 days up here, 7 days down there, basically. So I worked 2 jobs for 5 years or whatever on that side of the street. And Debbie is just a horrific worrywart. Like, she sees snow on the Weather Network, and the next thing you know, jump to Facebook to see how bad the roads were, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
So cleverly enough, she's always, what's it like? What's the road like? You're not lying to you. So I started sending her pictures, but I'm a little bit step ahead of that. I take pictures of good roads on good drives, and then I'm when driving conditions are the shit. I still be sending her good pictures.
That's shameful. That is so shameful.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, it's probably about 3 years after I stopped commuting. I said I was cleaning up my phone, so I guess I can get rid of these pictures. She got pictures of what? I said, well, on the road. What road pictures? I said, oh, I've got road pictures on my phone for every season and every road condition. So if it's a rainy day, I had rainy spring, rainy, right?
That's so shameful. Shameful.
I'm telling you, I think I made 1, maybe 2 trips from Fort Mac to Edmonton, which is 4-hour haul, if you're following the limit.
Correct.
I'll just put it that way. If I've done her pretty quick. That's all I'll say. But that's all I'll say. But what's called is yeah, the pictures I kept them. So anyway, she caught on. So I cleaned up my phone. I told her about it. But the thing is that I made 1 or 2 trips down there, and when I got into Edmonton, I returned to Edmonton that time. When I got into Edmonton, she was in tears. When I rolled into the house, she was in tears, just thinking nothing but the worst. And well, I'm a really great diplomat and really smooth talker. So I told her, well, honey, if anything goes wrong, you'll have a cop banging on the door, so don't panic. Yeah, well, I guess that's not the way to approach that.
No, but I mean, you were honest. Like, if anything, like, you're honest.
Yeah. No news is good news, right? No news is good news. If I'm calling, I'm broke down or whatever, right? And, so.
And we navigate those trips actually depending on the weather, especially in the winter. We watch him closely. He's always asking kind of what the home stretch looks like, basically from, I guess, Boyle home, so the last hour and a half. He always just checks like how bad's the weather, and I mean, we get bad weather every now and then, and our weather does not look the same as Fort McMurray's on a regular basis. And that's okay. So I always check our side, and I'm like, well, let me know if something's different. And we do. This is probably, I don't know if other people do it. We do like a kind of like check-ins at certain points. So he lets me know there's certain places along the way. So with us, Wandering River is one of them. So you're out of that dead zone and you're coming up on the southern part of that twinned highway. So he always lets me know, hey, I'm here. And then I get another one once he's fully off Highway 623, and next one would be Redwater. And then from there, I know Redwater is an hour from our house. So just with like city traffic. So I know, once he hits Redwater, he'll be physically inside the house within an hour. And we've been doing these check-ins for years, but I don't actually spend my time worrying.
Has he ever told you about any close calls on the highway?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's always accidents. Before the highway was fully twinned, it was a lot worse. He does tell me about the animals on the road. He actually, this past trip up there, I got a message saying, hey, I just watched someone hit a deer. And I was like, oh, are they okay? He's like, I kept on driving because like this is not the highway you really want to stop on. He's like, I just kept going. He's like, it didn't look terrible. It looks like they just hit it and drove over it.
Yeah.
But he
Wasn't
said,
a
yeah.
picture, I'm not stopping, eh?
Yeah, but I mean, he actually hit the back of a porcupine in the spring and didn't see it until he didn't know if he had actually hit it. He saw it go and then he saw it run past. And when he
Yeah.
stopped in Wandering River, he had the quill sticking out of his tire.
Oh, cool. Stuck in the tire, really? Well,
But not deep enough to actually pop the tire. They were just in the tread enough. So he just hit the back end. But he said it's like it can be kind of eerie driving on that highway at night because all you see is eyes everywhere. Yeah. But I try not to worry. Like my mom gave me a really good tip. She always tells me to not borrow worry. So you can't worry until you know a situation. So
what do you mean not borrow worry? Like,
so worry when it's not warranted.
oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So if I sit and worry, maybe I'm giving like little juju out to the world that something needs to be worried about. So I just don't. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah. Yeah, well, so that was my trick of dealing with the highway anyway. So he's pretty calm then. Maybe he's got. What do you think of Dave? I'm going to check with Dave to see if he's got a file of pictures of that highway. Does he send you pictures
Not usually, no.
for road conditions? Oh,
No.
he's not. He's not clever like me. I'll coach him along with that.
You'll smarten him up.
Yeah.
It's
Not hard
really,
to do.
I've
For me?
gotten the odd picture. And it's I think I got some when the fires happened in 2016. I got pictures of like the fire on the side of the road and whatnot when he was being evacuated. And every now and then, if it's a
How'd that go over? Was he right in town when that went down, Heather, or what?
He was actually in camp and he was asked to give up his room for a family evacuating up to north into the camps.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So what did they do with him?
They said they would try and find them accommodations or they evacuate and go home. So I think he left around 11 p.m. So he got a really, really harsh look at what the fires looked like because everything was just orange and burning and soot everywhere. And it took him 8 hours to do that.
Yeah, it would be a line of traffic even 8 hours into that fire. I was there that day.
They had closed off the Twind and it was a 1-lane only. So then emergency vehicles could use the other
4 lanes southbound. 4 lanes southbound.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. So that was probably the worst. That was like the 2016 fires might have been the worst that we've had to deal with just because of the evacuations. Fuel was really scarce. He actually went up to Fort McKay to get fuel before coming back down. So that was probably the most stressful one. And it took him a bit, like with all the news reports and they were showing footage. It took him a bit before watching live TV became normal again. So it does, certain things do affect you. So
did you borrow worry for that?
That one, he called me when it happened. And so I was kind of talking with him throughout the whole process. Like when they called the evacuations, he was at work. So he let me know and he said, I'll keep you in the loop on what's happening. And then I knew when he had left Fort McMurray. And I said, I'm like, if you're getting tired on the highway, just call me. I'll stay up all night if I have to, and we'll deal with this.
Yeah.
And so he ended up back in the city in the earlier in the morning, but it was.
So is this the only place that Dave's done shift work? Like 18 years, he's must have done shift work at more locations. So where's the farthest away he's been?
The farthest away, he wasn't with me when he did this, but he actually did some work in Cambridge Bay.
Cambridge Bay, where the heck is that?
The Baffin Islands, so the very top of the world.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Up in Baffin Land.
Yes.
And Baffin Land,
And he said they took the diciest little planes to get right onto site.
Yeah.
little prop planes that fit 4 people, and yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Little bush planes, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
little bush planes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I worked out of them for a while there doing natural gas compression and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah,
neat.
I kind of that and helicopters. I like that stuff. That's fun. So is there any like points of high stress for you? Like when he's gone, like what causes you the most anxiety, most stress?
Um, so the bigger stress for me is because I'm by myself. When something breaks, like the catastrophic breaks, it's hard because I'm not really familiar with how to do this.
Yeah.
So about
So you're
a month
talking
ago,
household or
yeah, like in this case was the household. So our hot water tank completely went kaput. And I do have a neighbor that does like has a business for this, but we couldn't figure things out. And I was like, okay, Dave, you have to arrange this stuff because I don't know what I'm asking for. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know
yeah,
the ins and outs of buying a new hot water tank.
yeah.
So he arranged that stuff, and yeah.
No,
So
no,
little
sorry.
stresses like that, or when weather gets inclement, or we get like a big dump of snow, like shoveling is a lot. So I'm like,
Yeah,
why does it always snow when you're not here? And then he gets here, this beautiful weather.
yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, stressors, it's not, unless there's like a family emergency. And in that case, his work has always been really understanding that if there's a
Yeah,
work or a home emergency, he can leave at any point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
There's just
pretty
a
sweet.
5 hour delay.
Yeah, that's right. 5 hour delay. But even if in Edmonton, you can be on one side to the other, you're talking 2 hours, right?
It can
Pretty
be,
pretty
depending on
quickly.
traffic,
Yeah,
weather. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It can be 2 hours just to get around the other side of the city a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can.
Been there and done that. Eh?
Yeah.
Been there
For the
and done
most
that.
part, though, stress, I'm pretty independent. So for the most part, it's I find a way to deal with things. I find a solution. I find a way to make it work. I don't spend a lot of my time stressed on if he's not here to deal with something. I kind of plan our lives around when he is here. So like the scheduled items, the appointments, aside from emergencies that you can't plan, everything else I kind of have a contingency for.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I guess after 18 years, you kind of go that way, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Did you find it
definitely.
really, really hard at first, or what? Like
Um,
that, you seem like you're just coming off to me is really confident with the shift work thing altogether. Like you seem pretty composed and uh, well, the shift work. I guess you can go from extreme to extreme. The first shift I ever worked was when I was in the Navy. Man, I was 18 years old, got out of high school, and within a year I shacked up with a girl in Victoria, and was on a 6 week deployment. I come back, she took off as a vacuum cleaner salesman. So so I, I've seen from one extreme to another extreme on the shift work type of thing. So, but you
definitely.
seem to be, yeah, you seem to be like pretty cool, calm, and collected about the entire topic here. Like you don't seem to be too stressed about it. So at first, were you even stressed at all, or what? Like,
Um, at first, when we first got together, he was actually working in town. So I
there you
kind of
go.
got eased into things. And then when he said, I'm going,
Cool.
and I said, okay, like we just have to figure out what communication looks like for us. Like, how do we get to talk? Like, do you have, I didn't know anything about Fort McMurray at that point. So I was like, is there service? Like, do you have the internet, like on site? Like, do you have this at your camps? Like, what do they have? So he walked me through everything and he said, this is what it is. And yeah, probably the first year was difficult. It's the adjustment period. So
Yeah,
understanding what things really look like. And you're right, there's the complaints about the camp food. There's the complaints about the bed being too hard, soft, whatever, too little, not big enough. The rooms are like, he refers to them as like prison cells, that
yeah,
it's like 7 by 7. And so there's certain things, but then I was like, maybe show me what this stuff actually looks like so I can
yeah,
understand what you're dealing with. And so he's taken me on little video tours of his tiny little prison cell hotel room, and it's not that terrible. It's probably more the social aspect that grinds on them, is that they don't have their friends, their family, you know, things don't smell the same. You've got this monotonous schedule. And yeah, I don't know, everybody goes through the tough parts. Like, have I cried because he's not here? Yes. And he's really patient about it. I'd like to give him a big kudos, because he will sit and just listen to it and be like, okay, or like, did you get it all out? And that's a really blunt way to put it, but he's like, just get it out.
Put it,
and
yeah.
So yeah, like there are moments of stress. Like, I might seem cool and calm right now because this is normal. This is what we've been dealing with for a long time. But also how I was raised really gave me like a kickstart that it's normal for a spouse to be away. I think I've always had that.
Yeah.
Is that the patriarch of a family isn't always there.
So when he comes home, has there ever been a time where you have checked his so if he's acted as the authority figure in the household, you're usually running the household, and he comes back, has there ever been an encounter with you and him where you've said, hey, like, I'm running it and I'll do it and I'll handle it and don't worry about it?
Yep. Oh yeah, there's absolutely. Like, it's not like a power thing. It's I'm used to a certain, like, things being a certain way. I'm sure your wife would be the same. Like, the things are run a certain way. Your house runs like this. And then you step back in and you're like, you throw the wrench in to the smooth moving cog, and they're like, whoa.
Debbie and I can't cook in the same kitchen. Ironically, we owned a restaurant, right?
I've heard about Debbie's kitchen, and she's particular, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Our dream home's got to have 2 master chef kitchens, mine and hers. I don't organize the kitchen. I don't cook the same way.
Yeah.
And I find a problem. Debbie's upstairs watching hockey game. She won't hear this. And you know what? She doesn't even listen to my podcast. That's the question Heather asked me the other day. Your wife listens to your podcast, Maynard? And I said, we've been together 20 years, and she figured I was going to stop talking by now. So she should give up on it, right? But anyway, getting back to the kitchen thing here, so if I'm cooking a meal, I'm going to ask you, hey, okay, I'm going to do the main course here. You're going to do prep for me. You do my veg, you do this, you do that. And when Debbie goes to the kitchen to help me, she tries to interject what she wants to do in the kitchen, but she doesn't understand I'm cooking the meal or I'm doing the meal. So now I stay out of her kitchen. But when she's at work, I do what I want in the kitchen. Oh man, I can't. Her organizational system is nowhere near mine. I over the years, I think the nastiest we got with each other was she asked me to make my banana bread. So she makes her banana bread. I make my banana bread, and I make my carrot cake. So anyway, I'm making my banana bread, and then she comes in and says, "Well, put chocolate chips in it, put this in it, put." Whoa! You asked for my banana bread, not your banana bread. I threw her out of her own kitchen, man. Right? You want my banana bread? I'll make mine.
That is the funniest thing, because Debbie sent Dave home with banana bread.
Yeah.
One trip home, and I saw it sitting on the counter. And for backstory, Dave's mom is very specific with her banana bread. No chocolate chips, no walnuts. It's like banana cake almost in a banana bread form. Yeah. And it's very, like, there's nothing wrong with it. I grew up with the walnuts and the chocolate chips. I have a tree nut allergy though. So I saw it on the counter and said, can I even eat this? And then it was a text back and forth, and Debbie's like, no. Like, we don't want Heather dying.
You got a whole bunch of allergies and stuff.
Yeah. And and I looked and I said, Dave, you complained about how I made banana bread for years. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, but Debbie makes it the way I make it. And that's
Uh-oh.
so I mean, like we do, obviously, like Dave and I butt heads. We're both extremely strong personalities, and it's
Yeah.
weird. It's like, because he sees Debbie like another mom, work mom,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't even think twice about it until I was like, wait a second, that's exactly how I made banana bread prior to my nut allergy. And he's
Yeah.
like, I know, but it's different. Okay. All right. So, like, just like everybody else, like, we butt heads. Do we fight? Absolutely. Does it get weird because he leaves because he physically has to go to work? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the communication can never stop.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing, is he's big on communication. We're
Yeah.
both big on it.
He's good at that. So it's for our viewers and listeners here out in podcast land. Dave actually rents a room from me when he's up here in Fort McMurray now, and what's called when Debbie. That's the Debbie project. And when she put the ad out, Heather actually interviewed Debbie to see if it was the right place for Dave.
Mhm. I
Right?
did. I wanted to, like, for safety,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we would just wanted to make sure. And then it evolved into like work mom, work dad.
Yeah.
And when I told my daughter I was coming onto this podcast, she said, she's
Yeah.
like, oh, she's like, whose podcast? And Dave just like pops up out of nowhere and he's like, work dad. Like,
Worked at.
and she's like, oh, okay. And didn't say anything past that. Like, it was
Oh,
just,
there you go.
it's normal. She's used to
Yeah.
hearing work mom, work dad pretty regularly in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave's got to report to us when he leaves the cities. Right? Right? So we know when he's coming up. That way, there, in case I got to run down and go bail him out or whatever, right?
It's
We know
true.
that.
And I mean, like, it's the same. I'm like, okay, because you guys live in, like, for anyone that doesn't understand Fort McMurray, Fort McMurray is so isolated from any larger city. I think the closest, you guys are 2.5 hours, 3 hours from the
Yeah, that's
closest small town.
Laklabesh, yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. And so that
You're
would be the closest.
if you're flying, you can do it too. Right?
Yeah.
If you're flying.
Yeah. But I mean, there's
ground level flight, that is. Ground level.
yeah, it is a considerable stretch, though. It is quite isolated. And even from there, you can't really, there's only a certain chunk that you can go north before in the summer the road stops, and in the winter you're hitting the ice roads.
Yeah.
So it's unique, and it's definitely different. Like, it's a town that should only have a certain amount of people, but just the oil field has brought probably at least another 100,000 workers and boosted Fort McMurray's economy.
So do you have, Heather, do you have like a communication strategy that you use, or are you just like, it's just you guys just have, I'm gonna pop the hat off because the bald head's sweating.
Getting warm? Yeah.
Yeah, getting warm. So do you have a planned strategy, or are you just natural communicators in your relationship?
Dave did not start off that way. I've always been big on open communication. Just especially being a mom.
So you're telling you call me or else? Is that what you're saying? Is that how did you train Dave? How did you train Dave? Guys are good communicators. Like usually,
I don't think I
20
did.
years later, Debbie.
Right. You're absolutely right.
20 years later, with Debbie and I, she goes, I know what means. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And with Dave, like he keeps a really neutral face most of the time. So I'm like, is that what happy looks like?
Yeah.
Was that what angry looks like? Like, you have to determine that stuff. With communication, I didn't give Dave much of an option, to be really honest.
Yeah.
It's basically setting the terms of a comfortable relationship. So for me, communication is huge. I need to know that we can constantly talk. And he just became comfortable with it over the years. Because in the beginning, I had to seek the conversations, that he wasn't as forthcoming with just the regular, hey, good morning. Like, how was your day? What did you do? What's going on at work? Any problems, any this, that. So now It's normal where if there's like a quiet period, and this happens every now and then, probably like once every week or two, that I get a
Yeah.
text in the middle of the day that says, pretty quiet over there. You must be either really, really busy or you left your phone somewhere.
So, does he ever get pissed at you and just say, "Well, I'm not going to answer a text for all"? Has that ever happened, or have you ever done that to him? Like, he's just being an asshole today, so I'm not going to reply.
I think everybody does that, to be honest. Like if we're in an argument and I'm like, oh, this does not warrant
Yeah.
any, yeah, I'm not gonna pour fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I'm like, okay, we'll just, you give yourself a little bit of a break, handful of hours or overnight passes or something, and you move forward.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you're away because like fighting when you're not there, it's actually, you think it'd be easier because you don't have to look at the person. It's actually harder because you can't gauge that situation. You don't know what the other person's thinking. And if you're basing it off of voiceless text messages,
So
you don't
when
know
you
about it.
so when Heather, when you're fighting
Hmm?
at a distance, are you using text, or are you using email, or are you using Facebook, or are you using video
Text,
calls like this, or are you? So do
text,
you have like text?
text. Yeah.
So, do you not
Yeah.
see any problem? Do you not see any problem with text?
Um, I don't think so. Like the tone is completely gone in text. Um, so, but I don't know. It's always
What
been
so what happens? So what happens now when the text is gone?
like when they delete.
No, no. So the tone, not the text is gone, but when the tone of the text is gone. So Dave sends you a text and he's pissed, you're pissed,
Mhm.
and he sends you a text. It doesn't have any fine thing to it. It's just the word fine. So what happens at that juncture in time when you get a text message? You ever notice that?
Sometimes.
I'll give you the answer I'm looking for. Is do you not do you not find that text is interpretive?
Yeah,
So if I
absolutely.
read a book and you read a book and we start reading into a book, I've never read so much since I created this podcast. I'll tell you, folks. If you want to write a book, read a book. If you ever, like I've written 2 books so far this year. One's at the publisher right now. Want to write a book? Read,
Mhm.
read. But anyway, when you read, you interpret, right? So
Absolutely.
we communicated various times about getting together for this podcast, covering the subject we're going to talk about during this podcast. When I send you messages, what's called on Facebook Messenger, um, and I'm texting back and forth because I'm on a shift bus, yada yada yada, and getting things all coordinated. Uh, my text to you is interpretive, is it not? Do you not
It could
interpret what
be.
I am saying?
For the most part,
So how do you know if
maybe
I'm gonna? How do you know if I'm gonna? So I'm texting Heather saying, okay, yeah, we're gonna get together, and I'll have you sign this waiver, and I'll have you do this, and I'll send you this, and I'll send you that.
Mhm.
How do you know I'm not pissed or cranky?
I don't. I guess maybe I'm a little naive about that, that I take things more for face value. That like mean what you say what you
Yeah,
mean. So if you're saying this is what we're doing, or like in the case of where I said to you prior to filming when my suggested time was, and you said, you know what, I'd prefer to do it at this point.
yeah,
Okay, so you mean exactly what you say. I took it for face value. You wanted it at a certain time, date, place, whatever.
yeah,
And I took that, and that's fine. I would hope that we're all adult enough in this world. Some people aren't, but I would hope that we're all grown up enough to, if there's a problem, that you would just say it.
yeah.
So that's
But
no
not
different.
being
That's no
what
different.
I'm trying to pry out of you is because you and I are just trying to have a conversation. Uh, which all, but I do have listeners that are going to be young couples, right?
Yeah,
I've worked with a lot of young couples listening to my
absolutely.
podcast. Mechanics live in BC. I know one guy, Mason. You owe me an episode too, buddy. He's got a wife and 2 beautiful young girls. Uh, they're just new. He commutes to Fort Mac, and he lives on down in Burnaby. I can only imagine what a young couple would do without any experience. You've got 18 years with Dave, and I see great hazard in text messages. I don't know how many, you know me now, that, and anybody that knows me, I'm a hideous guy for not filtering shit. So if something's said to me, I try to twist it, turn it into a funny joke, and fire it back. The problem with humor is humor works 50% of the time if you have the right audience. So that being said, you and Dave are fighting, and he's interpreting what you're saying, right?
Yep.
And that might not be what you're saying, or he says something.
You're
Could
absolutely
you,
right.
so for young couples, you got
Mhm.
18 years in the game, these guys seem like a very solid couple, because I know you both personally. What advice would you give to a young couple like Mason and his beautiful wife and kids, communication wise? What would what advice would you give? You're where they want to be, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
they're happy.
Well,
And
thank you. That's really kind. In the time that Dave and I've been together, it's the boundaries. So setting
what do
those
you mean
acceptable
boundaries?
boundaries with what you want. So to effectively communicate, you have to know where those markers are. So it might be, hey, call me when you get there, call me when you're off of work. Like, I mean, in this man's case, doing the
Yeah.
Burnaby to Fort McMurray, he's going to be at the airport. He's doing a flight out. So it would be a quick, like a call. Hey, I'm at the airport. Everything's good. I'll call you when I land. When you land, hey, I've got a bus ride from here to here. The more communication is better. Like I've evolved into text are okay now, but a real conversation always needs to happen. Like that's probably the biggest one. And patience.
So
Patience
a
to
real
know.
conversation over phone or with technology now you can do FaceTime very easily. Or
Yes, and I consider that the same, like a phone FaceTime. Like FaceTime's even better because you can see the person reacting to how you're speaking to them. Yeah,
yeah,
you can hear the tone in their voice. Like effectively, if you have that distance, like the physical distance,
yeah,
um, getting a FaceTime means maybe it's a conversation that you need the assistance in interpretation. So
yeah.
I don't know what to do with the kids. Like the kids are acting out. I need help. I'm going to FaceTime you. You can see what's going on. Give me some advice. Like everybody goes through these things. Everybody has the kids. Everybody has the stuff, the issues. It's properly navigating through those things. And I think my bigger problem is it's not the interpretation part, like where we text, it's the posting on social media where you post that everything looks fantastic and perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And then it's really not like the
So
what
dumpster fire in the background, eh?
exactly. And of course, like you're not going to post the
Yeah.
bad things, but it is a real, like it gives a really hard impression when you're dealing with those things. And to a new couple that maybe is experiencing this for the first time, you can post all the pictures of your children and all the cool things that are going on. And that's great. But you also have to tend to the garden at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any fucking days where you just like get burned out? You say, "Fuck, I've had enough of this stuff. He needs to come the fuck home."
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How
Yep.
do you cross those? How do you cross those days? Let's talk about the young couple that hasn't experienced that. So you've experienced that. You've got a path across those waters.
This,
What advice would you give to a young couple?
say it. Like that's the truly that's the only way that you can, like if it's getting really hard and you don't have that support, like you don't feel supported in that, tell them to come home. It can happen. Or say like maybe extend, instead of having that 1 week off, maybe
Yeah.
bounce it into 2 so then they can help out a bit more, everything can smooth over, and then you kind of reset and start over. And
Look
it's
over the issues, eh?
exactly. And time is a big thing. Like time, patience, because as much as we, like as a wife, you need to be patient with their work shift and the fact that they're dealing with this and that and shitty food and shitty beds and whatever the case is. Everybody's going to
Yeah.
have a different opinion on what the oil field looks like. But they're also not looking, because there's a little bit of like being naive with someone being okay, because they're like, well, you're at home, you can sleep in your own bed, you can open your own fridge and do this and that, whatever. But when you're missing the other half of that storybook, it's not always the same. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's just I've been doing this for a little while, so I make it look a little bit easier, but we all go through rough times, and I still have moments. Like I told you before, yeah.
So what can that young guy do for his young family at home to make things a bit easier? Okay, I'm in camp. I'm gonna ping on my buddy, my young buddy. Matter of fact, everybody on this crew right now has got 2 kids, 3 kids. They're in their mid-30s. They're in their mid-30s and young families and stuff. So I guess this question is for all the guys I work with. Is what can the guys do from camp to make things easier at home? Does that make sense? So the guys at camp, right, they come in with their flavor-free food. I call it flavor-free food. Everything in camps up around the MAC is made almost generically, where it's flavor-free. You can't offend everybody. It's almost like woke food, right? Yes. You might get the only flavor you're going to get or spice you get. I suspect it's allspice, because the guys bring me cookies and stuff and try to jam that down my throat. That doesn't work. But I know, like the guys up north I was on shovels with this summer, their routine is to do the day's work. We started at 5:30 in the morning, start a shift, then the shift was 5:30 in the evening. They either hit the gym or they play pickleball, then grab a bite to eat, shower, get to bed, so we get up and do it again tomorrow. Then there's the other guys, so that's the social guys for the crew, and the other guys are doing self-improvement stuff. So I'm working with guys right now that are hitting the gym to make themselves a better person. They're not happy with their weight or whatever because cooking so good at home, they wind up like me, and Santa Claus don't fit down all the chimneys he used to, right? I just say it. So that being said, that's the lifestyle you have when you're on that 7 or 14 or 5-5-4 rotation away from home. What can that guy do over FaceTime or phone to make your world a bit better back home?
For the most part, it's conversations. It's having the conversations, the regular stuff, like how was school, talking to your kids. Talking to your kids is a big one. Not everybody thinks of that. Yeah. So scheduling that kind of time where you can have those communications or whatever you can do to help. Like the kids have, a sport going on. Well, maybe you're FaceTiming a portion of it so they can see. Yeah. I did it with Dave. Our daughter danced for 11 years and I had FaceTime dance competitions very privately. Oh, really? Yes, I did it so I couldn't get in trouble, but I would send him pictures and stuff. So then if he wasn't there, he could still kind of experience it. So it's experiencing normal life with your family in a way that's non-conventional. But scheduling that kind of time is, I think it's important.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think I'm almost out of questions. Any questions for me?
What was your military time like? I just out of curiosity.
My military time was 1978 to 82. I was in the Navy as a naval weapons tech. Sailed the 7 seas on the Pacific Rim is where I sailed most of the time. I went through 3 relationships in 4 years, but I was 18 years of age when I got into the Navy. And then, like the guy said on the ship, I went queer and found a woman. And then I get married to a woman and adopted her 3 kids. So, yeah. Once that transpired, then I made a conscious decision to leave the Navy and then become a father. Because on average, over 4 years, I spent 252 days a year at sea. And back then, when you made a phone call from Australia, it was $40 for 10 minutes at a payphone. Technology was a little bit different in the 70s, people. So, yeah, it wasn't much of a call. I used to send letters every day. I'd write a letter every day. And that when we hit foreign ports, like let's say we stopped in Diego or Hawaii or Tonga Tapu, that would be dropped off to the local post office, then sent onward back to base, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, communication was important, but you never knew what would happen, right?
It was hard to come by as well in the 80s.
What's this?
Communication, like aside from letters.
Send a letter. This is
Yeah.
just yeah. Just see this right here. That was it. That's texting.
Yeah.
That's FaceTime. Some of my animations were rather clever, may I add. But yeah,
Mhm.
that was it. So
I
the
do have a
evolution,
story. I
the
have a
evolution
story.
of a story. Okay, I love
I do have
stories.
a story. So in the 80s, we know, we just covered that communication was different. It looked different,
Yeah.
different times,
Yep.
different places. So I grew up military. I grew up with two military parents, and one did a few deployments.
Mhm.
So I was so young. Like these are the first, 5 years of my life that these deployments are happening. Um,
Yeah.
my mom actually gave me a unique coping mechanism, and this might be why I am the way I am today. So this might be a weird one, but so when on deployment, we got a phone call every Sunday. My dad had like a specific amount of time that we were allowed to have these phone calls.
Yeah.
Aside from that, because I was so young, I wasn't used to seeing him as often. So when we would say goodnight, we would say goodnight to my dad's picture.
Okay.
Okay. Until he got home, and my mom said, "Go say hi to your dad." And I ran to the picture because I didn't,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't, I knew him
Now,
as a picture for a certain amount of time. And the voice was right, but the
yeah.
physical being wasn't quite right in my mind. So
Yeah.
that's like, my mom and I were actually talking about it a few weeks ago. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm like, I think I have like a rose colored glasses theory on time away, is that I
Yeah.
don't quite look at it as time away. It's more like, it's like a pause in my brain.
Yeah.
And I know that he's there. Like Dave's there. I'm aware. I talk to him, but it's like I don't perceive that he's not here. He's just he's there, but he's not. Like, and then when he
Yeah.
gets home, it's like he never was actually gone.
So you
But
rationalize that in your head is what you're doing, right?
yeah,
Basically, right?
yeah. I told my mom, I call it my rose-colored glasses theories, that I'm always looking for the brighter side of things, where it's like, oh, like I do have the comments, especially with the young couples, like with friends that don't have spouses that work in the oil field, that have them there every night. And I don't know what that has ever looked like, just
Yeah.
between my current relationship. I don't know what that looks like. So I get asked all the time, is it hard?
Yeah.
And it's not like when you think about it, it might be hard at this second, but when you get asked the question, well, like, is waking up in the morning hard? Sometimes. Is
Yeah.
going to work every day hard? Sometimes. But it's
Yeah.
not like, I really try and focus on like, oh, well, he only has like, a week left or 2
Yeah.
weeks left, or on a shutdown, a month left.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for like the positive side, because I really can't focus on the negative parts. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't serve me any good,
Yeah.
especially
No,
not as a parent.
if you focus on negative, you'll find negative too.
Exactly.
I was talking with one of the guys at work about a different subject, but it doesn't matter if it's work, friendship, or relationships, or
Mhm.
whatever culture. If you're seeking negativity, you can find it, and
Exactly.
if you're seeking positivity, you can find that pretty quick as well.
Yeah. And you think about the things that you're telling your children on a daily basis. Like, if you're raising children and they're experiencing this too, you're trying to make life as normal as possible, so they're
Yeah.
not seeing these voids. So it's like, it's okay, dad's at work or mom's at work in some people's cases.
Yeah.
But it's okay, because when they get home, their time is 100% devoted to what we're doing here. They get to see different
So
moments.
you find that a big advantage, Heather? Where when he comes home, then it's family time.
Yes,
Is that what transitions in your life when he comes home? It's family time.
100%. Yep. Where when
Cool.
he's home, he's like, what do we have to do? I'm like, nothing. We have nothing to do. He's like, we can just sit and watch a movie, have supper, just hang out. Yeah, great. And if it's like, okay, we have this and this and this to do, he's like, but we're doing it together. Yes. So it's rare for anybody that knows both of us. It's rare when he's home for us to truly actually be apart, because we
Yeah.
spend most of our time apart anyways. So we have the same friend group. When we go to do stuff like we're changing tires, we're fixing things on vehicles with friends, and I'm sitting on the chair in the garage being like the foreman who's just like telling them they're doing a good job. But it's still time. It's still quality time.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. That's good time.
It is. Yeah.
That's good
It's
time. A lot of guys that get time off and they don't spend it with their families, just wasted time.
I
That's the
agree.
purpose of going north. I've seen that play out before too, right? So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you get
It's
time off and then you're spending it with your work buddies instead of your family, right? So
yeah.
that's a dangerous trap to fall into, right? So
Yes. And I mean, that's like, I think we struggled with that probably in the first year, as it was acclimatizing to being in a long-term relationship and a long
yeah.
distance relationship, because it's long distance and it's not at the same time. Like we have the ebbs and flows of time constantly.
So David come home and he'd hang with his buddies and go hunting, fishing, doing guy stuff. Everything is that what happened initially in the first year, or
Yeah. Yeah. He just wanted to, he didn't understand like time. Like we're also missing out, where
yeah,
he might be missing out on a social life,
yeah,
but that's kind of what he signed up for working in Fort McMurray. Is he signed up to give up a good chunk of a social life.
yeah. A lot of people don't realize that when you're coming up doing the big hours for the big pay, that you
Yes,
sacrifice a lot to get that, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame to see some
And
guys take that and waste it,
mm,
right? Because you have that available time, right? And I know myself personally, so I'm doing 14s with Maynard Mine. Absolutely love these guys. Best company I've ever worked for. But my 14 days off, guess what? I'm not hanging with the guys I worked with for the last 14 days. As much as I love the guys at work, I'm not doing that. I'm spending that time with Debbie.
yeah,
And when Debbie's working, I'm working on this podcast, and I'm working on my books, and I'm working on marketing, and I'm working on editing. But I'm right here at the house. And then when we get a shot, we sneak down to the city to see the granddaughter, our grandson, and our daughters, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so that 14 days off, I'm close to home. Many guys at work might think I'm a social butterfly, but I'm actually a pretty big homebody. When I'm not there, I'm here,
mhm,
and that's about it, right? So, but yeah, so when I'm at work, Debbie's not sitting beside me and having a conversation with the guys I'm having with, right? So, in the same token, when I come home, I respect that fact that that time's her time.
absolutely. And that's the biggest thing I can say
Yeah,
for Dave, is that if I want to go out with my friends and be with my friends, I'll do it when he is not here, if I choose to do that.
yeah,
And then when he's home, we're together. So we can have the dinners, we can do family things, camping. Like in the summer, we love to camp. So we make sure that we set up enough time. And that's time where he completely detaches, phones go off. Everyone just, it's quality time. And that's probably the biggest thing, is quality time. And there is an adjustment period the longer somebody's gone away.
yeah,
So it usually takes, especially with, this day shift, night shift, those types of scheduling items. Um, Nights can be extremely hard. There is an
yeah,
adjustment period, and the longer someone is away, it takes time when they come back into the house, where they realize that, okay, I'm sleeping in bed with you again. Like I can't kick and not hit
yeah,
anybody. Like,
yeah,
okay, you the things you're not used to hearing. So like, okay,
yeah,
so you snored, okay, and you kept me up all night, okay, got to get used to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Understand.
normal things, but it's like you just have to take them one at a time. As long as, if you do have a family, I understand there's a lot of young guys that work up there, and that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs to get their time in to be able to get where they're going. But for the people that do have families, respect those relationships.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you went up for in the first place. I guess the lesson to take from this podcast to be you went to the oil sands to make the big hockey bags of money to provide for your family. When you get back with your family on days off, spend that time wisely. Eh?
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely. Yep.
Pretty good to say. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Heather, guess what? We blew past our hour. And guess what? I've really enjoyed talking with you, but I am going to bring this to a conclusion today. If any of the listeners out there in Gears of Trust podcast land would like to hear more from Heather, I know I was pretty fascinated with the inner workings of a family. And I didn't see the longer this episode went, the more questions I have, and I still got more questions. But if you'd like to see more of Heather and myself with other subjects, don't be scared to throw them in the comments, stuff like that. If you learned anything, that's great. Once again, Gears of Trust podcast. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts now, iHeartRadio. You can get us on Amazon. Get us on YouTube. It's on my personal channel right now, and I've just got all the documentation submitted to Google and YouTube, and I'll be creating the Gears of Trust YouTube channel very shortly here. I'm on X. I'm on True Social. I am on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. If you cannot get a hold of me, shame on you. I can't help you. But we'd love to hear input from our viewers. Merry Christmas. Heather, thank you so much for your time. I can't believe how quick an hour went. I try to keep the podcast 1 hour long, so that way there it's easier for the listeners. 3 hour, 2 hour podcast is pretty extended. If we go into something like that, I would much sooner make that a live podcast where the listeners could interact with us. But once again, I'm going to say to everybody, Merry Christmas. Catch us on the local medias. Heather, thank you so much. And we're going to close off in this recording here right now. I'll get it all edited, and it's coming up for Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. December 20th is when this podcast is going to be live. And I hope you enjoyed it. Have yourself a fantastic Christmas, and we'll be loading new ones into the new year. All right. We're going to let you know. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Anything, Heather? Merry Christmas. Okay, bye.